محمد وآل محمد.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين، حبيبي وحبيب الله العالمين أبي القاسم محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين ذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في محكم تنزيله: أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم، بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون، واعتصموا بحبل الله جميعا ولا تفرقوا، واذكروا نعمة الله عليكم إذ كنتم أعداء فألف بين قلوبكم فأصبحتم بنعمته إخوانا، وكنتم على شفا حفرة من النار فأنقذكم منها، كذلك يبين الله لكم آياته لعلكم تهتدون. صدق الله العلي العظيم. My dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Inshallah, quickly I would like to talk tonight about what last 2 weeks we decided to speak about, and that is to talk about the importance of unity and also to talk about some of the suggestions that can help the Muslim Ummah to come together as one nation. Because if you look at the Muslim nation today, we always need unity from day one. But our need of unity of today is more than ever before. If we ever needed any unity throughout our lives, today is much more than any time in our lives, as we all can see what's going on. For that matter, I would like to talk about the unity according to the Quranic point of view, and then the unity according to the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. This ayah that I just read is in Surah Ali Imran, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the importance of unity. But the important part of this is, how does Allah started the surah or the ayah? The first thing Allah talks about, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, calling the mu'mineen. And here I would just want to elaborate a little bit about one of the what we call the unique of Quran. One of the beauty of Quran is whenever Allah wants to address something, Allah has a different ways and different styles of approaching the humanity. One of the styles is Allah calls the people and then address them. Now this call also comes in different stages. Stage number one of the calls of the Quran is sometimes when Allah calls, He calls the entire humanity. Everyone, male or female, it doesn't matter. Mu'min or kafir, it doesn't matter. The call is the entire humanity. Example, Ya ayyuhan nas. Here the call is just for people. Now, a mu'min or kafir, it doesn't make any difference. That is call number one in the Quran. Call number two is sometimes Allah calls just the mu'mineen. Example, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. Now, when this call comes, it tells a kafir, you are not included in this. When Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, it tells the one who is not in that level, you are not part of this topic, part of the topic. Allah is referring to certain people who have attained the iman. That is call number two. Call number three in the Quran, Ya ayyuhalladhina kafaru, or Qul Ya ayyuhal kafirun. Here the call is for disbelievers. That is call number three. Call number four is sometimes it's not all humanity. It's not just a mu'min. It's not for kuffar. is just for the Prophet. Ya ayyuhar Rasul, Ya ayyuhar Nabi. Here for the Prophet, they say is divided into two. Sometimes Allah calls to the Prophet and he talks to the Prophet and he wants just for the Prophet, nobody else. Meaning, you and I, we can learn if we want to, but Allah is not talking to us. It's just for the Prophet. Example, Ya ayyuhal muzammil kumil layla illa qalila. Allah says, Ya Rasulullah, stand in the middle of night for namaz or for salat al-layl. Now, salat al-layl, we know is wajib upon the Prophet, musta'ab for anybody else. So the wajib namaz that Allah, the wajib salah that Allah is talking to the Prophet, here is just for the Prophet. Now then there is another side when Allah said Ya ayyuhar Rasul or Ya ayyuhan Nabi is talking to the Prophet, but at the same time is to us to learn and obey and follow the steps of the Prophet. In other words, they say Allah is talking to the Prophet but to us indirectly. In Arabic it's called Iyaka a'ni wasma'i ya jar. Meaning, I'm speaking to you, but I want your neighbor to hear too, because it's also included in the speech. Example in the Quran, Ya ayyuhan nabi, the Quran is called Lima tuharrimu ma ahallallahu lak. Like this called, Allah called Ya ayyuhan nabi, but even me and you, we are not allowed to forbid things that is halal to us. So it's even though the call is to the Prophet, but we are also included in that as well. Now, these are the calls in the Quran. Now, one of the differences is that whenever the call comes, now look in the Quran, this is one of the unique about the Quran. Now, what makes the difference between Ya ayyuhan nas, Ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu, Ya ayyuhan nabi, what difference does it make? Here they say, the difference is that whenever Allah says Ya ayyuhan nas, look at the next thing after that. Is that Allah wants to talk about something that has to do with the humanity. It's not about faith. Example, Ya ayyuhan nas inna khalaqnakum min dhakarin wa untha. Ya ayyuhan nas inna khalaqnakum min dhakarin wa untha. For one of the example, Ya ayyuhan nas in kuntum fi shakl min al-ba'ath. Allah, when he talks about, mostly it's about the humanity. But come to Ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu, always when the ayah Ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu, the next thing is always responsibility on the mu'mineen. Anytime, Ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu, taqullah. Ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu, kutiba alaykum as-siyam. Ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu, kutiba alaykum al-qital. Ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu, aminu. Every time you see, it's like Allah wants to ask mu'mineen to do something. Well, Ya ayyuhan nas, no, he's just trying to elaborate something about humanity. That is, every one of the call, there is a purpose behind it. Now, one of these called, Ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu, taqullah. And that's haqqa tuqati. Allah says, fear Allah, haqqa tuqati. True fearful. Meaning, it's not like the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that I'm doing because of showing off. No, haqqa tuqati. That comes from the bottom of the heart. And then Allah says, وَلَا تَمُوتُنَّ إِلَّا وَأَنْتُمْ Muslim. Allahu Akbar. Do not die unless you are a Muslim. You know, this, brothers, is the very important. You know, in Islam, beginning is important, but the end is more important than the beginning. Meaning, a person can be born a Muslim, raised as a Muslim, but not every person can die a Muslim. A person will be born, a person a fearful, a person who is obedient to Allah to begin with, but the end is not going to be the same. That is why see Ibrahim al-Khalil in the Quran, one of his dua, he said, Rabbana wa tawaffana Muslimin. Ya Allah, when the time of leaving this world comes, let us die Muslims. You know why? Let me give you some examples from the Quran. Number one, you and I, Iblis, how did he start it? Shaitan, how did he start it? A fearful, pious, and the line of the angels. They were serving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But how is he going to die now? Huh? Is Iblis today? Now forget about this. Let me share with you one ayah in the Quran in Surah Al-Hashr. The last ayahs of Surah Al-Hashr. When you get a chance, read this and see the tafsir. Allah talks about a man. He said, كَمَثَلِ الْإِنسَانِ كَمَثَلِ الشَّيْطَانِ إِذْ قَالَ لِلْإِنسَانِ كْفُرْ. A man, a story is in tafsir. Just this summary, just to give us an idea. A man was abid, very fearful of Allah. Then after Musa alayhi salam, everybody came to him for everything. Dua, sicknesses, hajj, everything. They go to the man. And his name is Barsisiya. Very, very pious after Musa alayhi salam. But look in the Quran, how did he die? Kafir. And Quran said, كَمَثَلِ الشَّيْطَانِ إِذْ قَالَ لِلْإِنسَانِ كْفُرْ. He did one haram. There is no time to go into details. What did he do? But what happened? He did haram, and one haram led to another haram. One haram led to another haram, to the point where he was about to be killed. They found him guilty. They wanted to kill him. Now they brought him. He was tied up. Hands are back. Legs are tied up. Then Shaitan shows up. Shaitan shows up. They said to him, Ya Barsisiya, what would you like? Do you need any help? Barsisiya says, of course. Who will be in this situation and not need help? Of course I need it. He said, I can help you. But if you want my help, you have to do something for me. The man said, of course I will do it. What can I do for you? Look at the shaitan and the danger of shaitan. And brothers, again, this is the story from the Quran. Don't think it's not like somebody sitting somewhere trying to say something fiction or try to make something that's not. This is a real in the Quran in Surah Al-Hashr. Then shaitan said to him, I said, if you can do a sajda for me, I will rescue you from this death. And you know, sajda is not allowed for anybody except Allah. Then Barsisiya said, Ya Shaitan, I wish I can do sajda, but I can't do sajda in this situation. My hands are tied up, my legs are tied up, I can't. Shaitan said, Ya Barsisiya, I understand your situation, but if you can even nod, but in the intention that this is sajda for Shaitan, he said, that's all I need. La ilaha illallah. Barsisiya nod. And he said, yes, I did. What the intention you are, the sajda is for you. Shaitan said, good deal. But I have one last request. You do it, I will help you and rescue you. What is it? He said, I want you to denounce Allah and the Prophet Musa. That's the dangerous part. Denounce them? He said, yes. That's all I need to do? He said, yes. And you help me? He said, yes. So go ahead. Barsisiya opened his mouth. I denounce Allah, I denounce Musa, and I'm calling him. I didn't denounce Allah, I'm calling him. I said, I denounce Allah and Musa. At the moment he was denouncing, they put the rope, because as this conversation was going on, it's just him and Shaitan. Nobody was able to know what is going on. As soon as he denounced, they put the rope on his neck and they pull it, and he died. And Quran said, كَمَثَلِ الشَّيْطَانِ إِذْ قَالَ لِلْإِنسَانِ كْفُرْ فَلَمَّا كَفَرْ قَالَ إِنِّي بَرِيءٌ مِنْكَ إِنِّي أَخَافُ اللَّهَ رَبَّ الْعَالَمِينَ. And Quran said, فَكَانَ عَاقِبَتَهُمَا أَنَّهُمَا فِي النَّارِ خَالِدَيْنِ فِيهَا وَذَلِكَ جَزَاءُ الظَّالِمِينَ. Allah SWT said, after he said, Shaitan asked him to say what he said. Then Shaitan said, you know, I denounce you too. No, I'm far away from you. And then he said, Shaitan said, no, I'm fearful to Allah. I'm afraid of Allah. And Quran says, فَكَانَ عَاقِبَتُهُمَا. The end of both of them, فِي النَّارِ, in hellfire, خَالِدَيْن. Allah said they will be there forever. Why? Because he did shirk with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That sajda is a shirk. Inna Allah yakfiru لا يغفر أن يشرك به ويغفر ما دون ذلك. Now the point of the whole story, brother, is he started as an abid, zahid, but that's how he died. That's why it's very important. When you hear the word وَلَا تَمُوتُنَّ إِلَّا وَأَنْتُمْ مُسْلِمُونَ, this is the importance of it. That's why when we make dua in Sahih al-Sajjadiyya, our Imam Zayd al-Abidin salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi, he has one dua called Dua Khawatim al-Khayr, meaning a good ending. Asking Allah to end in this world on Iman. Because it's not easy. Just because I'm praying today, I'm doing everything, doesn't mean that that's how I'm going to die. No. Brother, there is no time to elaborate this. Go to the history. At the time of Imam Ali alayhi salam, Khawarij, that we call Khawarij today, how did they start it? They were believers, fearful to Allah. Most of them, they call them Ashabul Jibah Sud. When you look at the forehead, Allahu Akbar, the sign of sajda is there. Quran, you wouldn't believe. When they read Quran, their beautiful recitation, beautiful voice. Up to one time, Ammar, with Imam Ali, they were traveling. They passed by a house of one of the Khawarij, and he was reading Quran. Exactly this ayah. Amman huwa qanitun ana al-layl. Ammar was impressed with his recitation. Imam Ali said, Ya Ammar. I said, are you impressed with this recitation? He said, yes. Beautiful recitation, good voice. He said, keep in mind. Just keep in mind. Imam didn't say anything. Just remember, that's what he said. Until one of the battle came between Imam Ali alayhi salam and the Khawarij. And Imam Ali, after the battle was over, he said, Ya Ammar, come. Ammar came. He said, look at this guy. Do you remember him? He said, no. He said, look properly. He looked. He said, I can't remember him. He said, look. No, I can't remember. Amman huwa qanitun ana al-layl. Remember the man? That's him. Came out fighting the Imam of his time and got killed. And where? Ila Jahannam wa bisal masir. He started something and ended something else. That's why it's very important. When we said وَتَوَفَّنَا مُسْلِمِينَ وَأَلْحَقْنَا بِالصَّالِحِينَ, this is the importance of it. Because brother, these days, now I'm telling you about people who pass, right? Now let me come to you and I. Now today you and I, we're waiting for the 12th Imam. When the 12th Imam arrives, that's when our test comes. And many of us, we see him, not only we say no to him, we stand against him. That's what happened with Imam Hussein. Don't think we read about the history of the people who fought Imam Hussein and we curse and we do this. Now, did we ever stop to think, if we were in their shoes, wouldn't we do something different? Imam Baqir, our scholars, Sayyid Muhammad Baqir al-Sadr, rahmatullah ta'ala alayh, one of them, he has one of the beautiful golden words. He said, we curse Harun al-Rashid, we curse those who did tyrant against Ahlul Bayt. This is word. He said, هَلْ أُرِضَ عَلَيْنَا دُنْيَاهُمْ فَرَفَضْنَا. Is any one of us was given what they were given and we said no? And we didn't do what they did? You know, Harun al-Rashid, he had the power, money, everything. I said, if any one of us were to put in the same spot, you have the power, you have the money, you have everything, and then Imam comes to stand in front of you, what would you do? You never think about it. Now we're sitting here, we don't have the power, we curse them, we do this. But if you and I are to be in that shoe, what would be your stand? If you have the position and you were able to say, with all this position, I'm surrendered to Imam, that is the person of the test. But until we are not in that position, it's very hard to tell. Now, with that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, after he mentioned this ayah, Allah said, وَأَتَسِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا. Here, the reason why I brought this, in tafsir they mentioned that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about taqwa in the beginning, and then he follows what? Al-wahda, unity. Why? Because Allah, as soon as he said, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا اتَّقُوا اللَّهَ حَقَّ تُقَاتِهِ وَلَا تَمُوتُنَّ إِلَّا وَأَنْتُمْ مُسْلِمُونَ. The next thing is to call the believers وَاعْتَسِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا. Why? What is the link between the two? Ibn Mufassirun, they said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to tell us this important message. That when he said, وَاعْتَسِمُوا, al-i'tisam, it means to hold collectively. Onto what? Hablillah, on the rope of Allah. A rope of Allah, there is so many tafsirs about what is the rope of Allah means. Some of them say, Hablullah bima'na Rasul, follow the Holy Prophet. Some Mufassirin say, no, Hablullah means Al-Quran. Some say, no, Hablullah means Ahlul Bayt. Some of them say, Hablullah means all of the three. Al-Quran, Ahlul Bayt, and the Prophet. So Allah said, وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا, and do not disperse. Allah, brother, here there is a point here. Allah, this is one of the things to think about the Quran. But listen carefully. When Allah said, وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا, the word do not disperse. Who do you tell don't disperse? People who are already dispersed, or they united, but you don't want them to disperse. You tell them don't disperse. Which one? So Allah tells you another, you are already united, but I'm afraid in the future you will disperse. That's what I said. وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا. So in the beginning, we were united to begin with, but some reason came later on, and we were dispersed, and we had these divisions. And that's why Allah said, وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا, warning us about the future. That is number one. Point number two, they said, Allah mentioned this because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned taqwa Allah first, and then He mentioned about unity. They said because everything has a foundation. And before you build something, you need a foundation, right? In Islam, we have usul, and then we have furu'. Usul is the foundation that you have to set up first, and then you can build something on it. Now, if you want to build a house, you need foundation before the building comes on top. Now they say Allah brought taqwa first, and then He brought unity to tell us that the foundation of unity is taqwa Allah. There any unity that is missing taqwa Allah is not gonna last. Any unity that you want to have, it doesn't matter whether the unity between a husband and wife. Let's start from the husband and wife. If you want to have a successful marriage or union between husband and wife, the foundation is taqwa. And these two, if the husband is fearful, is a muttaqi, and the wife is not, the union is not going to last. If it's the other way around, the wife is a pious, but the husband is not, it's not going to last. Let me give you an example from the history, from the Quran. Number one, a man was a pious, the wife was not. Lut and his wife. The opposite, the wife was good, but the husband was not good. Fir'aun and Asya. Now both of them were perfect, and they have the perfect union. Imam Ali and Zahra, salamullah. That is where it starts, brothers and sisters. If you in a union, even two friends, you will have a very good friendship. You have to have the foundation. The foundation is taqwa Allah. You know why? Because anytime disagreement, disunity comes from where? It comes from me, as called ananiya. You say yo, and it becomes two. But if both of us say him, there is no disagreement. That's why Imam al-Khumaini rahmatullah ta'ala in one of his saying, he said, if you are to put 124,000 prophets in one room, he said, they will never disagree with each other. 124,000, they will never disagree. Why? Because they all have the foundation of unity. They all have foundation. You and I, we can't stand one another because foundation is not there. Because you always look at you as you, and I look at myself, me. But if you and I are to put all this aside and have Allah, there wouldn't be any problem. That is the first condition of a unity, brothers and sisters. It's taqwa Allah. If the ummah, we want to unite it, we want to be strong together, we have to be able to develop that taqwa Allah. And we have to be able to eliminate me, selfishness. It has to go out and build Allah. When we all started to see Allah in one direction, the unity comes in, brothers and sisters. That is number one. Number two of the conditions is from Zahra, salamullah alayha. And you know, brothers and sisters, it's amazing when you go to the history, when they talk about Zahra alayha salam and her khutbah after the death of the Prophet and the whole incident that took place. You know, Zahra alayha salam, she came in the masjid of the Prophet and she gave the best khutbah you can ever imagine. And that khutbah is very long. When you get a chance, please read it. Because that khutbah is very, very educational. It talks about usul al-din, furu' al-din, and the wisdom behind why we do every furu' al-din. Not only that, usul al-din, why Allah's tawheed is important. Why do we have to believe in tawheed? Why do we have to believe in imamah? Why do we have to believe in all these 5 things? But one of the things she mentioned about imamah, and this is her words, and I quote, وَجَعَلَ اللَّهُ إِمَامَتَنَا أَمَانًا مِنَ الْفِرْقَةِ. Zahra alayhi salam, in a khutbah, she said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made the imamah one of the usul al-din to secure the ummah from division. Allahu Akbar. You know, one of the saying of Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq alayhi salam, he said, لَوْ الْتَفَّ النَّاسُ أَنَّا لَمَا اخْتَلَفَ الْإِثْنَانِ. If people are together around us, Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq, he said, 2 people will never dispute. That tells you that the reason why we have all this division is what? It's because of not going with Imam Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. Zahra alayhi salam, more than 1,000 years, and she was telling us, as imamatana aman, it's secure from firqa, from division. Which means, if the ummah wants to unite and have strong unity, the only thing they have to do is to go back to Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. That is number 2. Now, there are so many things also. This is from the scholars. One of the things they mentioned about one of the things that leads to unity is also about what we call looking at the angle of what unites us. A lot of the reason that ummah are dispersed, brothers and sisters, is that we forget all the main things that we agree on. Number 1, we all, as a Muslim in general, we all believe in what? In the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We all believe that Prophet Muhammad is the last prophet. Yes, there might be some disagreement in the details of that, but at least if we are to look at this, we will be able to unite one another and be together. But instead of looking at that, we look at the things that we disagree. And the more we go into those branches of things we disagree, the more the enemies utilize that opportunity to keep us divided more. If we are to look about even the Quran in Surah Ali Imran, when Allah told the Prophet, Ya Rasulullah, call Ahl al-Kitab, Ya Ahl al-Kitab, ta'alaw ila kalimatin sawa'in baynana. Come to the word that we all agreed on. Forget about the division. Because the more I say, you don't do this, I don't do this, the more it takes us to more deeper division. But if we are to look into things that unite us, then it's going to bring us together. That is why Allah, when He told the Prophet to call the Christians and the Ahlul Kitab, He said, Ila kalimatin sawa. What we all have common grounds. If we are to work on those common grounds, we will be able to eliminate a lot of problems. There are so many things, brothers and sisters, by lack of time. We will stop here. وصلى الله على محمد وآل محمد.
This last part that you mentioned, Imam Rida says, Rahimallah
Man ahya amrana. May Allah be pleased with the one that He makes alive our command. And then of course we read in Jama Kabira, خلقكم الله أنوارا وجعلكم بأرشه مقتدين حتى من علينا. The 14 of them are one light around the whole earth, and they favored us to be that follower, inshaAllah ta'ala. With that, please go ahead, and the floor is open for some questions from our brothers and sisters, inshaAllah ta'ala. The first one, if I may ask, you said that a day is going to come, and that is scary. And in fact, Akhi Muhammad has been asking us too, that this is question, what are we going to do? A day is going to come. Ash says, I don't know whether I should be with Ali or should be fighting against the Quran and the battle of Siffin. What are we going to do when Imam Mahdi comes and the things is tough and the problems are all over and we are confused? What are we going to do to get out of that confusion?
Yes, the answer is, see, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created human being, this is from hadith from Imam Zayn al-Abidin salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi. He said Allah created a human being and He gave every one of us 4 eyes. Every one of us, we have 4 eyes. He says, عَيْنَانْ يُبْصِرُ بِهِمَا أَمْرَ دُنْيَا. 2 eyes to see things that are around him, material world. Things he can feel and touch. وَعَيْنَانْ يُبْصِرُ بِهِمَا مَلَكُوتِ السَّمَوَاتِ. The other 2 eyes to see hidden world, the kingdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now these 2 eyes might be surprised, but when you go to the Quran, you see Allah confirms these in the Quran. In one of the ayahs where Allah said certain actions we do, it makes the heart become blind. إنها لا تعمى الأبصار ولكن تعمى القلوب التي في الصدور. تعمى, العمى means what? Blindness. القلوب, the heart, اللي في الصدور. See, the only way that I personally think one can recognize an imam and be able to know what is right and wrong is to keep those 2 eyes open. How do I do that? That's giftedness. Want to know himself and the message of the Prophet and the message that Allah requires him to do. With doing this, you will be able to see your imam when the time comes. That's his reason. If a blind man, blind who cannot see, like Jabir al-Ansari, during the time Imam Bakr alayhi salam, he couldn't see, but he was able to recognize his Imam. How? By the voice. When Imam Bakr was a young man, he walked in and asked Imam, stop. He said to his father, who is this son? He said, why are you asking? He said, I want to know, who is that man, that young child that's talking? He said, no, Ibni, it's my son, Ahmed al-Bakr. He said, Allahu Akbar. He said, can I hug him? He brought him, he hugged him, and he said, هذا من جدك رسول الله. He was blind man, but he could recognize what? The Imam of his time, and pass the message of the Prophet when the Prophet was alive, and the message the Prophet gave him to give to Imam Bakr, he passed it on. Now why you and I cannot recognize Imam when one still can see? If we have the eyes inside as to working properly, trust me, we will recognize what Imam and know what to do at the time of his appearance, inshallah.
inshallah. وأنر أبصار قلوبنا بضياء نظرها إليك حتى تخرج أبصار القلوب حجب النور وتصل إلى معدن الأرض. Inshallah. May Allah subhanahu tears up all of the hijab of the nur and we connect ourselves.
This word, wa'atassabu, right? What's the root? Wa'atassabu bihablillahi jamia. What's the, it's written over there. What's the root word of?
I'tisam.
What's the So what will be the root of?
I'tisam is the root. Min al-asama.
Asam?
But in Arabic, see, the word in Arabic, it can have one root, but anytime you add something into it, the meaning changes. There is a rule in Arabic, ziyadatul mabna, ziyadatun fil ma'na. Okay, for example, you have the word Rahim and Rahman. The root is Rahma, but when you say Rahman, it means different than the Rahim, even though they have the same root. So the same thing, the word I'tisam and the word the Isma might come from the same root, but the word, when you add a letter or a dot, it changes the meaning. Yes.
So the root it comes from, the mabna of it, what does that mean? First of all, the additional meaning comes from the root meaning itself, right?
Right.
It is an addition to it.
Absolutely.
Or it extends it. So the word itself, asama, what does that mean in Arabic?
Al-asama, it has a different meaning. One of the meanings is to protect, to keep something away from something. Like that's what we say, isma. That's one of the meaning. And then when you say i'tisam, when you add it, meaning to come towards something collectively, to hold on something. That's what the i'tisam. And that is where the word wa'tasimu came from. Yes.
Is it used in the Quran and other ayahs as well? Or is
Which one?
This i'tisam, the root word itself.
Yeah, it has been used in the Quran, yes, in so many places, yes. Yes. والله يعصمك من الناس. Yes, it's one of them too. One of the roots, yes.
So it's in the sense both of protection and giving and being protected, right?
Absolutely, yes.
The Isma is someone who is Yasirmuka min al-nas, is someone who is protected.
Yes.
I'tisam is someone who gives protection.
No. I'tisam doesn't mean somebody who gives protection. I'tisam means to hold on something collectively.
For what? For what reason?
To hold, it doesn't matter. It's an i'tasamu. It means to hold on something collectively. It's called i'tisam. It could be, that's why Allah said, wa'tasimu bihablillah. It could be bihabli shaitan, it could be bihabli insan. So it has to be whatever you want. You could say i'tisam bikada. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, wa'tasimu.
I'tisam means to hold on.
To hold on something, yes.
Before you go to the next question, if I may suggest that the father of our dear brother that he comes here more often had passed away last Sunday. Please let us go ahead and read Surah Al-Fatiha for Marhum Muhammad Ibrahim, that he, of course, he was among us here some time ago, alhamdulillah. And then Allah took him, inshallah, Allah give him a high place in the paradise, and let us read together Surah Al-Fatiha. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. Please don't forget to make the offer. Very good. Actually, that he was responsible for this session. Anyway, he, alhamdulillah, he made operation on his brain. His brain works much better, inshallah ta'ala. And so he's going to be among us, but he's recovering, alhamdulillah, much faster and much better. Alhamdulillah. Any more questions? See, the young ones, I need your question. That's it, give me a question. Nasib sister, give me a question. I don't have a question. Alright. So with that, let me go back. If you have any question, please think about this is the last thing that I would like to mention to you. Please, inshallah ta'ala, next week, Sheikh Jalil is going to tell us what to do. Next week, the session starts at 6:30. As it seems like everybody agreed, right? Otherwise, if it's going to be later, we're going to be up here at 10 o'clock and the kids are going to be grouchy the next week. Huh? Okay, 6:30 we start eating until 7 o'clock because some people come from work. That is why. We have a, so you won't be starving. I mean, I'm sure you don't starve anyway, but Have a nibblings a little bit, whatever it is, alhamdulillah, Allah blesses us. Always there is more food than the people any day. So you come and have a little bit of nibblings or eating, whatever you want to do.